చల్లగా ఉంది. సరే. Good morning, guys. We'll get started now. So I'll just recap what we had done yesterday. So we configured Sonar Cloud. We created a project, and then we integrated the Sonar Cloud project with our build pipeline. And then we added these tasks: prepare analysis, Sonar Cube, run code analysis, publish quality gate, and break build and quality in our build pipeline. And then we were able to see if the build is failed or successful in our Sonar Cube dashboard. Okay, these are all the things that we seen yesterday. So we'll see few more items in Sonar Cube today. So it's a more of administration, what I would say. So for that, let me first log into my Azure DevOps, dev.azure.com. Sign in. We take IT6. So let me log into my Sonar Cloud account as well. Sonarcloud.io. This one. Yeah. So this is my Sonar Cloud account. So this is what we seen that yesterday we failed the build. We created a quality gate, and the quality gate contains the criteria like duplicate lines should not be greater than, forgot, some 40% or something. Okay, yeah, it is more than 20%. Just fail the build. So likewise, you can create a number of conditions there, depends on your project requirement. Okay, but mostly it will be on the duplicate lines and the code publish. Because the other things that like you see blocks, etc. That's a heavy technical. Even technical architects or developers really do not know about it. Okay, even if you ask anyone, they don't know what is a block coverage or the line coverage, etc. So it's very tough to understand unless you have a experience at the compiler level. Because most of the people write code only, by googling or by. It's all about meeting the functional requirements, right? They really don't care what's happening inside. So that's why people cannot make it out. But if you're really interested, you can go and explore other options. But it's very tough. Okay, so you use a duplicate lines and code coverage mostly, and make security related settings. What you see in our SonarWay. This is the default one, right? Built in. When you install Sonar Cloud or Sonar Cube, right, you will get these things. So most of the people use the same thing. Okay. So now what else we need to do? So when you take any project, right? Let me open my Visual Studio. Okay. So this is our Visual Studio project, right? Okay. And here you see many references. That means these are the reusable components or DLLs given by our .NET framework. Or sometimes you may use reusable components given by some third party as well. Okay, let us say you are using AngularJS, some JavaScript frameworks, right? Or you might be using React.js. The developer may use anything. And when you are using those kind of scripts, right, it gives you thousands and thousands of built-in code. And we really don't know what that code is. And we go and try to use that existing code and fulfill our functionality. Now, this Java, this Angular or React or jQuery or JavaScript, whatever it is, right, is not written by us. And when you do the code analysis, what happens? Your Sonar Cube analyze that code as well, because it doesn't know whether it is by you or someone, right? As long as it is part of your project, it will analyze it. So what happens? In many cases, though you have a unit test cases written for your own code, but you do not have a unit test cases for other code. So now you are doing well, but because of other third-party libraries where the code is there, your code coverage go low. So in that cases, development teams ask, hey, this is not my code and this we are just using it. So we are not responsible for the quality of that code. Then in that cases, you need to exclude it. So otherwise, entire code coverage rating will be down and your build will be failed. So for management or some other reviewers, it looks very bad because people look at the metric first and then only they get into the details. Right? So that's where you need to exclude the things where the code is not developed by you. So this is the ask by the developers or the architects, whoever is working on it. So let's see how we can exclude that. There are many ways to exclude it. You can exclude that code like a AngularJS or anything that is part of your project from coding or from the administration. But coding is not advisable. The reason, if I allow you to do it, right, you can suppress everything, right? So you lose the governance. So this exclusion should always be from the administrator. If somebody is doing from the coding, and of course you can't do anything because you will not go and review the code, right? Some architect or lead will be reviewing the code and they will say, why are you suppressing this? So, but you do not have any role to stop. But when they come to you, you have to exclude those particular usable code that they are using from the third party. So let's see how we can exclude it from the administration perspective. So before that, let's go and understand. So this is our projects, right? So we have only one project. So I don't want to add more and more projects. It makes confusion. Okay. So let's open this. So here you can see vulnerabilities, code smells, coverage, and duplications. Right? So you can see the code as well, right? We seen it already. And you can go to the code. And this is your, you have two projects. One is a .NET DevOps demo. And then if you go to the Visual Studio, so one is your actual project, another one is the unit test project. So that's what you see in your Sonar Cloud as well. Okay, let's open this. And you already seen a number of metrics, calculate lines of code, bugs, vulnerable, and this is what you see on the dashboard as well. But that is a more visualized manner. This is a testable form. Okay. And if you see the duplications, because let's concentrate this and it's easy to understand. So you see the duplications line and actual duplications are 53%. So 53% of code what you have in your the sample project is duplicate. And in that 67% your scripts folder. So scripts is containing a lot many JavaScript. It's all jQuery. So it is contributing 67% to your duplications. Okay, let me go back. That's developed by the yeah, so it's not written by developer. So when he created a project, he needs to have some front end to work on it. So now in the current days it's jQuery. But if you want to explicitly use, some people use AngularJS, some people use React.js. It's up to the architect creation, what front end framework they want to use. Okay. So, but by default, when you create a .NET project, the jQuery comes into use. Okay. Now it is contributing 67%. So overall, it is 53%. Let's not get into more calculations. So now the developer say, boss, I did not write this code. I'm not responsible for the to fix this duplicate lines of code. Okay. Then that's where the administrator comes into picture. Okay. Let's exclude this from the analysis. Okay. So SonarQube provides you all these facilities. I mean, what is the scope of your analysis. So what folders to be analyzed, what folders not to be analyzed. Okay, so from the administration perspective, you can do at the file level or the folder level. But if you want to do it at the some function level or method level, then there's a code action. But most of the times it's not a particular method or function. It's the entire folder or file. Okay. So when I say method or something, right? You go, I mean, you go to any code file, right? .cs. So these are the methods basically. So if someone wants to exclude this from the analysis, they can exclude by writing some .NET annotations. But we don't do that because if some method is there, most of the times, if it is our code file, we are writing it. So it is mostly at the folder level. Now what I'm going to do, as I told you, I'm going to exclude this scripts folder from my analysis so that my code, my duplications percentage will be reduced. Then my quality gap will be successful. Okay, so it's a, I mean, this exclusion is nothing but how you do it. You have to give the path. So this is like any regular programming language. Either you can give the absolute path or the relative path, means you give the dot slash and then folder, right? Same, there is no difference. We give some path and then we apply some configuration stuff. That's it. It will SonarQube now knows that okay, this is not to be analyzed. Okay. So under scripts, what we have many other .js files. So you see, I mean, jQuery IntelliSense is having 95% duplications. Okay, another one is 99% duplications. Okay, like this. So I'm not just going to do file by file. I'll do at the folder level. Okay, because exclusion is same whether it is a folder or file. Okay, how I can do? I can directly, because I'm creating a pipeline, right? So it's always better to make centralized change. Yeah, the whole intention of this DevOps and then CI/CD pipeline is to make your configuration declarative. That means no code. Declarative means no code, and then centralized so that you have a central visibility. You don't need to go to multiple places to do multiple configuration. If you are doing that one, what happens? After a couple of days, you will forget, and if you leave the company or if you move to the other project, then nobody knows what you have done. Okay, from your perspective, it is okay as a DevOps, but organization perspective, that's not right. Because we need to again give the KT, and that guy don't know whether he can grab it or not, and your manager don't know whether you will give the KT properly or not. These are all the practical things. That's why people enforce you to make it to make all the configurations from one place. So that's what your concepts like infrastructure as code, all these things comes into picture. Why they want to do it everything from the automation suite. Even if you leave the company, nobody cares. Everything is in the version control. The documentation is there. If you don't give the KT also, don't care actually. They can go through the documentation, get the history, and understand it. That's about theory. Let's go and exclude this scripts folder from our analysis. Okay, that I'm saying I'll do it from the build part. So first, so where is this scripts folder? I mean, it's under our project, right? So this is our .NET DevOps demo. So basically, this is a folder structure, right? So you have a .NET DevOps demo folder. Under that, you have a scripts folder. Under that, you have many .js. So always never give the absolute path, because your path will change from server to server. Okay, always give the relative path, because anyways your program runs or your job runs from the root folder of your project. It will not run from any other place. So if you give the relative path, it works. If you give the absolute path, it will fail, and there is no doubt about it. So let's go to our build pipeline. So we have these projects, and this is our project, right? .NET DevOps demo. And then go to builds. So it's failed yesterday. Let's go and edit it. So in our prepared analysis on Sonar Cloud, yesterday we created all these keys and integrated, right? We given the keys and integrated. This is about it. And if you don't know, you can access the. Okay, you already done it. Okay, that's. So we left these advanced properties, right? So now we use these advanced properties to do that exclusion. Okay, so so all the, I mean, if you want to exclude, right, this is how it looks. Sonar dot exclusions. Okay, and then you give the path. Okay, basically you get all these information from the Sonar Cube website itself. So I'm just giving it because I know it. I'm just showing you. I don't want to go multiple places. Let's directly go to your Sonar Cube itself, because these are not new things. These are there since the years and years. You can directly go to the documentation and you can use it. I mean, it may be tough for you to read all these things. There are, so you see, right? This is what you see, Sonar dot exclusions to exclude source code files. Okay. The reason I'm showing here, because when you are troubleshooting any critical things, right, it's always advisable to come here and check it rather than checking some forums, because forums you never know who is right or who is wrong. Okay, so let's go to our one. So what I'm going, I'm just going to uncomment this one hash. Okay, and before that, I need to give the project key and project name as well. So we already created here, right? That's how we were able to integrate our pipeline here. So let's go and it will be project dot key. Our key is I am already having on the top here. Okay, I'll take this one, copy, paste. Okay, and then project name, and then project name is the first part, right? The first part we given the project name. Let's take it. And next line, you give. Let me copy paste this one. Typing is always problematic. Copy, paste, and then so as I told you, I just want to give the relative path rather than absolute path. So if you give star star, so this will go to the root of your current working directory, and then slash, and our folder name is scripts. It's not case sensitive. That's okay. And then slash, and there are many .js files. Right? I want to exclude all the .js files. So I simply say star.js. Okay, so this is how you, I mean, you give the advanced properties to explore, and there are many other tags as well. You can go and explore. Let's go and save it. Let's give it. Let it take a minute. this is a very typical activity that you will get because when you are using, when you are developing it, right, people use a number of third-party libraries. It's very common. You can give the, let us say, if you want to add many folders, it's very simple, right? Uh, Rather than scripts, you give the entire, from the .NET DevOps demo, that's the root folder, right? From there, you just start. It's relative, but it's just like you are working with your file system. There is no difference. The way you use it in bash scripts or with command prompts or use it in our programming language, there is no difference, right? The wildcard is always star. You simply say the root folder, everything will be executed. So for that, you don't need to do that one. Exclude from the code analysis itself. Okay, done actually. Let's go and go to our project directly. Fast. So we didn't make any change, right? So we simply excluded the scripts folder from our code analysis. So our quality gate criteria is, if it is great, if the duplicate lines percentage is greater than 20%, fail it. That's what we said. Now it became 0. There are no duplicate lines because we excluded from the analysis. So the quality gate is successful. So that's how we see. I mean, if you want to now go and look into the same metrics, right? What you see, you can go to. So how we went? We went to the code and then go to your projects, and then you see here, even the scripts folder itself is excluded because it's a virtual copy of your repository, right? So the actual repository is on your Azure GitHub. It's just a virtual copy.
That scripts get increased when we release.
No, 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 no. So let us say when you are using any SonarQube kind of stuff, right? It's a third party or from a different vendor, and your actual code is on your repository. So it cannot do any modification to your repository. That's how the integrations works because we are not developing it, right? The SonarQube company and the Microsoft company work together and they create the plugins. Okay. So what it will do, because no one allow, let us say you are working with me, I don't allow you to change my permissions, but you have to work with me. Then what I do, I give a copy of my stuff to you. Whether you change it or don't change it, I don't care because my true copy is with me. So in the same way, these kind of scanners, right, like SonarQube, etc., they basically take a copy of the code and do the analysis every time. So it will not make any changes to your existing code. So that's guaranteed. Okay. So that's how you exclude some of these folders or something from your code analysis, and then you will be able to make your builds successful. Okay. So now we created a quality gates and we made it failed or successful, and then you know how to exclude these things, and you know how to create a quality gate with a different mesh. Okay, and you also know how to create the keys so that you can use that key in your build pipeline for the code analysis purpose, and you know all the 4 tasks to be used for your code analysis. Okay, so this about code quality, and you have all the other settings, right? These are so this is like, I mean, any company or any product will have all these permissions. If you're, let us say you are using SonarQube, it's not just you, right? you are having other DevOps engineers, they also need the permission. So that's all. I mean, you can go and create users here. But in general, if you are using SonarQube in your, it will be integrated with your Active Directory. So you don't need to give your Hotmail or something. Obviously, it will populate and then you just use that existing user ID password of your Active. Okay, this is for permissions. And you already seen the code. This is just to see what the code is there, etc. And the activities. So whatever is happening in your analysis, right? It gives you this visual representations as well. Okay, most of the people don't use it because anyways, your build fails, everything comes as an email to you. Let's go to my email. It's not from the SonarQube. When my build failed or successful, my initially the scene, there are notifications, right? Already some of the notifications are already configured because this is a fast platform. Let's go and check my inbox. Is it mine?
Hi, Purna, this is
This is the one
Manoj.
I'm using.
I
So
have some
8 a.m. right?
doubts.
So this is how you keep getting your about your bills, what's happening. Okay, and you can go to our notifications section in your project settings, and you can configure for what services, for what activities you need the email notification. So this is a pre-built. You just need to go and use it. Okay, and what's next actually?
Hi, Purna, this
So
is Manoj.
we were
I have
talking
some
about
small
some
doubt.
custom rules, right? As I told you, it's been stabilized since more than a decade. If you are writing any custom rule, that means that is very specific to your project. It's not related to, mostly it's not related to your coding best practices or any security violations, etc. Because these are all standardized. Okay, because it's more than 20 years old product. Okay, but apart from that one, what else you can do as an administrator? So you have a lot many rules here, right? So so use the term called code rule set. These are all the code rule sets. Basically. So your rule set contains more than one rule. That's very simple. So you can go and basically uh, you can basically activate or deactivate the rules as well. Frankly speaking, you will not do it because all of the rules are important. Okay. So this activation or deactivation feature is given to you because there might be scenarios for custom rules. So you can activate, deactivate. In some projects, they don't want even to uh, analyze the code itself. There might be some n number of reasons. Okay, if I talk about it, it will go on actually. For any reason, you can activate or deactivate it. So how you can do? I mean, so always right. If you want to get the administration, this is how you come. Generally, you will get all these different menu items, and then administration we already seen. Okay, this project management is not related to your project management. So you have a number of projects here, right? You can delete or add us for that purpose. Okay, and then billing. Anyways, we are using free account. No need to worry. And then members. This is very huge. And then rules. This is what we just seen. Okay. So there will be a place where you can go and activate or deactivate. Let me just go and check one of them. Let's open this SonarWay. Okay, this is a default one, right? Which is given. So I can't deactivate. That's what it is saying. Rules in built-in quality profiles can't be deactivated. You can create a customizable quality profile based on built-in one. Because you always have a superset given by your product, and you can create a subset. And I haven't created my own set of rules basically. So you can go and create your own set as well. Let's say go and create a quality profile, and then I'll say my .NET. You can give any name. My .NET profile. As I told you, SonarQube supports any number of languages, right? So you see, there are many things which even I don't know. So I'll say C#, and then parent. I'll take the SonarWave, which is inbuilt. Let's go and create. Okay, so now my profile is being created here. Let's go and try to play. So now I'm getting options. Right now there are rules for there are 258 total active rules, and there are 136 inactive rules in this profile. And I directly created from the parent, which is a Sonar built-in. So I did not make any. It's a simply copy paste kind of stuff. Let's open this inactive stuff. Okay. Now, if you want, I mean, if any of your architects come and ask, hey, I want this rule to be added, then you have to ask, what is that rule? If they tell you the rule, you can come and search for here, and then you can simply, activate. And when you are activating, this is what you say, whether it is a rule, if the rule is blocker or something. I mean, if you mention it is a blocker, then most of the times your will fail, because blockers can mean if there is a blocker, it should not continue with the will. So you can set the severity like this, and then you can activate. So this is how you can activate or deactivate rules. So these are all the things that you can do from the SonarQube. These are very complex. You can just go and read it. Even I don't read these things. Okay. So what's next? So for doing this code analysis, right? We are creating the build pipeline, and then we can. So did we do the continuous integration enable? Did we enable it? No, right? Okay. Let's come back here. Before I get into the concept, what I'm going to tell, let's do this one. So let's edit this build definition. So we talk about continuous integration, right? We always talk about continuous integration, which is nothing but your automated builds combined with some other features. Okay, that's a continuous integration. So your build definition contains many things. These are all the tasks, you already know it. And variables, I mean, variable is nothing but a variable in your programming language. We will use it in the deployment pipeline, because that's where you realize the value of this one. Because this is a compilation, right? You may not see much value from your perspective, but these are all the built-in variables that your the template created. Okay, and now come to the triggers part. Okay, so this is where you enable the continuous integration for your build pipeline. Okay, let's enable it. We will tell you. I will tell you what it is. So I just enabled continuous integration on my build pipeline, and this continuous integration is enabled on my master branch. I only have one branch. Let it be master branch. Okay, that's it. I just don't want to do anything. Let's save it. Okay. So what's continuous integration? So you also have other things like scheduled and build completion as well, but I just consider continuous. It is basically check-in. So for every check-in, or you would say commit or push, whenever you make change, you will push back to the repository. For every change, I want my build to be executed, so that I will know the quality of code immediately. Okay, that's what we do. So first, so far what I'm doing, I'm coming here and then clicking on the queue to build it, right? So right now what I do, just let's do one change and then we'll get into the other areas. Let's go to home controller, and then I'll say CI sample. just I mean as if you are writing some code. Okay. Let me open this. Let me go to the home page. So this is where, right? So the last one is 827. This is other time 21/8/827. Okay. Now let's go to our Visual Studio and let's check in the code. That means you push it. So commit, give some test, commit. I'll just push it directly. Done. Let's go back to our, let's refresh it. Okay, it's already, our new build is started. This is a test coming. Okay, so when you enable continuous integration, right, for every check-in, it will start the build. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about anyways, it will build it and it will run it as well. Let it go. So now the concept what I'm going to talk about next is about same analysis running from your local PC. That means whenever you do check-in, it will go and run the build and it will do the code analysis, blah, blah, blah. But it's a time-consuming process. And most of the times, you will not push the code till the end of the day. Sometimes we don't push the code even for a sprint as well. Probably at the end of the sprint, developers push the code and do the code analysis. What happens? You written thousands of lines of code or hundreds of lines of code, and you are checking the quality of the code only just before hours of your release. The quality issues are there, you will not fix it. Obviously, you will take some what do you say? You will take some exception and you will move on. And so your quality still be bad. So what's the solution for this? This is one practical scenario. So there is a concept called there is a plugin called SonarLink, and this is also very famous, and it's been there more than 15 years. Okay, what this SonarLink does? So it basically do the code analysis locally. Okay, so on the Sonar Cube, we are running the code analysis. It is having a number of rules. So when you are doing it locally, you have to use the same rule set, right? Use a different, so if you use a different rule set, then what happens? The quality measures there and quality measures on local will not match. So it will not serve your purpose. That's where this SonarLink kind of plugins came into picture. What it does, this plugin integrate your Sonar Cube rule set with your local system. So the developer need not to push his code to the server to do the build and see the code quality. He can do it right from his PC. So every time what happens as an administrator, you will tell them, okay, boss, this is how you do, and then they can install the plugin and they can start doing the. Every time they compile, obviously for every 10 lines or 5 lines, they do compilation. For every compilation, it will do the analysis, it will show the issues. So the developer, if not one day, the second day he will get frustrated and start fixing the bugs, or it will get notified to the reviewers. That's how it goes. It's a kind of enforcement, easy to do, easy way of analysis. So it's successful. I'm not going to check that one. Okay. Let's go to my, how do you use that SonarLink? Let's go back to our presentation. So as I told you, you can do the code analysis with the same rule set what you have on the server locally. That's why this SonarLink plugin is available. Okay, it's very easy. You just need to install from the marketplace, or you would say extensions from your Visual Studio. This is similar to any other plugin, and then So as I told you, we will use the same code rule set that is available on the SonarQube, which my build pipeline is using, so that everything is in sync. For that, I need to integrate. Okay, I will integrate my local server, sorry, local Visual Studio with Sonar Cloud rule set using Sonar. And finally, bind project is network integration is completed. Okay, and then you can run the code analysis locally. Let's go and do it. So if you go here, right now I don't have my SonarQube Sonar link installed here. So basically, you see analyze. I mean, if you are using a Visual Studio 2019 or 15 or 17 enterprise versions or professional versions, you can see this one. Right now, you don't see any SonarQube related stuff here. These are all the built-in things, because before 10 years ago, you don't have this analyze folder. So you used to do it separately. Now they integrated. So internally it use some FX top or something. You don't need to worry, and it will do the analysis. But my intention is I want to analyze my code with the rule set what I'm using on the server, so that all my versions are using the same code. So let's go and use our Sonar link. So you go to the extensions and then manage extensions. So okay, let's see this here. So right now this is all the code what we have. We will see some more stuff as well. Okay, let's go extensions, manage extensions, and search for Sonar link. So Sonar link for Visual Studio 2019. This is what I'm going to use, and this is the only one you have. Okay, download. So let's close it. It is saying you need to close the studio. Okay, it started. Is okay. Modify.
Hi Purna, this is Manoj. Sorry for interruption.
Yeah, Manoj.
I have small. Actually, you told that when we enable continuous integration once for every commit, automatically build will be started. But how to write custom triggers? I want to start the build once for every 2 hours, once for every 3 hours. Like that, I want to frame some rules.
You don't need to. So you don't need to write any scripts. That's the beauty of the PaaS platform, right? Let's go to edit. That is what schedule. What you are talking is a schedule.
Yeah, okay. Schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, you already have the option here.
Where?
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you are using Azure DevOps, right? First, let us think whether you have a configuration to be done available. Okay, because most of the things are made available in the PaaS platform, be it Azure DevOps or GitLab or anything. You think about any custom scripts when you are using any Jenkins, even Bamboo. Bamboo is also full-fledged package. But if you are using kind of Jenkins, then think about should I create a script for this? Okay. So okay, my extension is installed. Okay, let's open again Visual Studio. This is not only for Sonar link. If you install any extension from the Visual Studio, right, it will ask you to restart because it makes so many changes in the background. So let's open our .NET DevOps. Now you will see some changes in your So this is to improve the productivity or the time taken, or to avoid last minute surprises, etc. Let's close this. Let's keep it very clean. Let's analyze. You see now we got this many solar quick connections, okay, because we installed this one. Let's open it and then connect. Now it will ask me that URL, right? So my URL is go to the projects. First I'll give the root one. Let me see. I don't remember till what path I have to give. First we'll give the root and then we'll figure out. So this is my, so as I told you, if you are using your in-house, you can use your URL. It's same, it doesn't matter. And then we are not using username passwords, right? We are using the tokens. Okay, let's go and use the token. How you will go and take the token? Can go to your, I think I did not copy, I did not save this token, right?
Sonar
Will be there.
we have pasted.
Did I paste it? And now you can't use it, because as soon as you copy that to that is a password field, right? Protected field. You will change it. It's not the reverse way actually. But if it is from your browser like a Hotmail or something, I can go and make the changes to HTML instead of mask the character and make it plain text. But many products will not allow it. So as I told you, let's go and try it. I mean, there is no problem in that, right? So this is where I configure, right? Prepare analysis for Solar Cloud. See, my connection is already established. Okay, I don't have any edit option here. If I have to edit, then I have to create a new one only. Okay, so let's. There is another place probably where I can go and get my these tokens. So we have this. Let me, yeah, service. Okay, so everything, whatever you integrate with others will come here based under your project settings. So this is the name I given, right? Solar Cloud connection. Let me see if I can take it from here. No, see, that used to be very big, right? Very small. That's what I'm saying. You cannot take it. So let me go back here again. That's why I always save it. Let's go to your account and then security. This is the one, I guess. Is it? I can't take it. Okay, let me create one more token. Hopefully, it will not fail my integration. Okay, but let's create one more. Okay. You can give any name. There is no problem. So let's copy this. Okay. Paste it here. Okay, cool. So Hasura organization. Okay. Okay, so I got my project here. So I don't know what will happen to that one, but generally it should not fail because both are valid tokens. I did not disable that token, right? Both should work. Probably what I do, I'll go and kick off this one so that I will not, or you will not have that doubt whether that token works or not. Right? Let's go to the pipeline. Basically now we have two tokens. So let's queue the build. Let it go. Okay. Okay. Now done actually. Now I integrated my local Sonar, I mean local .NET code with my Sonar Cloud or Sonar Cube with the same rule set. Okay. Now let's go to home, and you see now a different option. So earlier you do not have that one as well. Okay. Now let's open. Okay. This is the same thing. Now let's go and do a run code analysis. Basically, it should give me one alert saying, okay, uh, get the rule set as well. Just give me a second. I got everything what I have. I should be getting the rule set. Then only I would say that I connected to it. Of course, now I connected, but it should give me a pop-up. Just give me a minute, guys. Analyze. Okay. Now I have more options. Okay. Configure. Okay. Okay. This property is being deprecated. Not this one. Okay. So I got my Sonar link here, and then I'm not going to do any edits. Let's go and so now I activated for many of the things. So when you run the analysis, right, if there are any issues in the output window, it should show you with some code, and this is the issue. And that is what you see on the SonarQube server as well. Let it be like this. Okay. Now let's go and save everything. Okay. And analyze. Done. This is done. I'll create some probably one exception. Okay, let me create one exception. Basically, it's not an exception. I create some variable. Okay, it's already done. Because okay. I created a variable, but I don't use it actually. Okay. You don't need to do all these things. See, earlier I was not getting these things, you see, right? Even you see the output is very small. It is saying the variable name is declared but never used. And also you go to your view and then go to error list. Let's close this output window. Okay, it's not an error. Yes, I don't, these are all the warnings basically. Okay. Okay, this is how you basically, So whenever they do this, right, they will get all these options. These are the CS means the C#. These are the code rule set that your SonarLint is using, because we connected our rule set on the server with our .NET project. Okay, this is simply to boost your productivity, but I can't give you guarantee, or nobody can give guarantee whether people use it or not. Okay, so but you can always go and suggest the people, hey, why don't you use SonarLint? So it will improve your productivity. Okay.
Pandurangara, actually, we are not using the Sonar Lint, but even in .NET Visual Studio, we can able to see the warnings.
Exactly, exactly. As I told you, from Visual Studio 2015 or 17, the FX scope and style cop is integrated. Okay, that's where you see the analyze. That's what I was telling 10-15 minutes ago. Okay, but why we are using SonarLint? Because we are having the build definition. Okay, and that build definition is associated with some SonarCube server, and that contains some rule set. Okay, of course, if you are using the entire rule, because your rule set on the server may contain some 100 rules. Okay, but when you are using it from the Visual Studio, it may contain some 200 rules. And if you are working in some complex engagement, your architect or technical architect or whoever it is might have removed some rules from your server. They might have deactivated. But if you are using it locally without using your server version, then you see more exceptions. Okay, as I told you, this is to make your analysis in sync. So whatever the rule set you are using it on the server will be the same on your local as well. So this is not different from your core rule set what is there in your local piece, because this is integrated. It comes with your Visual Studio installation, but this is only to make your environments similar across. So whatever the rule set you are using on the server is the same thing you are using it on your local as well. Nothing other than that. Did you get the difference?
Mm, can you
No,
give
okay.
one sample with the difference? Means with the
Okay,
Sonar Lint, what I can see other
okay,
than
let me tell you. Okay, let me repeat it. So when you install Visual Studio, the latest Visual Studios, be it 2017 or something, as I told you, you will get this analyze. Okay, and I also shown you the what is the difference. Okay, so when you install Visual Studio, it comes up with all the coding standards of your .NET. So there will be some 7-8 different best practices categories. It will be security, etc., etc. Okay, and it may be some 500 rules because you are using the full-fledged product. But you are having some CI/CD pipelines created, and you are having your SonarCube server. There, your architect or your development team might have removed some 200 rules from the analysis. I mean, they deactivated. So now the difference, we have 500 rules that are being used for the code analysis locally, but 300 rules that are being used on the server for the analysis. So there is a difference in the count, and the rules might also be different. Maybe I'm using XYZ rule locally, but that XYZ rule is not there on the server. I might be using a different rule. So you are doing the code analysis, but these are not as per the standards set up by your enterprise architect forum or architecture forum or some quality analysis or QA team. I mean, QA means not your testing team. There will be some quality divisions who work for your company. They define the standards, what rules to be followed, what standards to be followed. They set it up. So this is to standardize. Did you get it?
okay.
If that is not the case, if you are especially looking for some rule to be open, then I have to take one rule from here locally and use it as it is. and deactivate the same rule from the server. I mean SonarQube server. We just seen on the SonarQube, right? In that case, what happens? Your build will be successful locally, and or yes, vice versa. You are not using some rule what is there on the server, so it will be successful locally. But when you run it from the server, that rule will get executed. It will fail. So there is a difference in the set of rules that you are using. It's a standardization of your process. So
You
I
mean
mean,
to
yeah,
you mean to say whatever the warning we are getting, that is already .NET rule, so
exactly.
that's why it's showing. But other than .NET rule, if you write one custom sonar cube rule and show me that one, if possible.
No, no. See, there is no SonarQube rule. These are all the .NET rules only. But you are
Okay.
using your SonarQube is a product which uses that rule to run the analysis.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So
Uh,
even in a compilation also, sometimes that when the warnings will come, no? Then what is the need of integrating this SonarLint? So even without integrating SonarLint also, this kind of warnings will be shown.
I think you
In
missed
the,
my earlier statement. As I told you, this is to standardize. As a so your Visual Studio contains a full set of rules, 500 rules, let us say. But your SonarQube server, which is a standardized, and some department or some architecture forum standardize the rule set. They said, okay, we don't need to follow all 500 rules for the code analysis. Use only these 300 rules for the code analysis. Okay, now what's the difference? Your architecture forum is saying use these 300 rules, but you are using 500 rules locally. I'm just giving one difference. This is the standardization of processes.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So this is how you standardize the processes. I mean, the code analysis process, and then you can activate or deactivate. And another scenario is you can improve the productivity. You don't need to push the code every time to the server to do the quality against the rule set what you are using on the SonarQube server. Okay. So these are some of the scenarios.
As a DevOps engineer, whether we must know all these things like code smells, code vulnerability, duplication, we must know each and everything, or
See, that's a development, right? How many developers know it? I don't know. Most of the people don't know it. So I tell you the one real time scenario. If you are working for consulting companies, mostly people suppress it. Most of the times people suppress it. Suppress means exclude. So that's what happens. But if you are working for a product company, they do take it very seriously. And the days are changed. You don't need to go and remember each and every rule and fix it. There are many tools. You can buy it from online. You write a code and it will make it perfect. You write some 10 lines of code and use those tools, and the moment you say right click and code cleanup or code analysis, etc., it will make your code right. You will apply the best practices. You might have written some for loop with some different number of statements. It will change it. I mean, your functionality will be same, but it will change the way you written the code. So there are many things. It comes under development, but I'm just giving you a clue. But whatever is the case, whether developer follows it or don't follow it, it doesn't matter for you. You need to know it. Okay. So that's about how you do code analysis locally with the same rule set what you use it on the SonarQube server. Okay. Standardization of code rule set or standardization of code analysis process locally and remotely. Okay. Let's go back to our build pipelines. It's working. Multiple tokens works, so you don't need to worry. Generally, I copy the token and keep it somewhere else, because if some issue comes, right, I have to spend another 5-10 minutes, waste of time. That's right. So you know the task. So in your build definition, these are all the different menu items you have. You've seen the triggers. You enable continuous integration, and you can basically, what, of course, whatever is the branch you are using, that comes here. Okay, and then these are the options. This is a metadata. I mean, this is nothing. I mean, it will not change the way your build executes or something. It is a metadata. So you see, I mean, how a build number should look like. So let us say in our email, right? We get the notifications, right? And it contains some build numbers here. Okay, build number hash something. You can customize that one. Okay. This is of not a high priority. You can customize using these options available, and there are few other things. Okay. Uh, you are giving the build. Do you want to supplement some additional information in the email as well? Okay, all those things. You see, when a build completes successfully, create a link to all the work items, link to associated changes. That means we seen the traceability, right? In earlier sessions, we created the work. First we created the work items, and we connected epics, features, etc. And later sessions we created the repositories, and during the pull request, you see, we enabled work items as well. If the work item status doesn't change to result, we were not allowing the pull request to be completed. So that's the traceability. Your code is linked with your work item, which is nothing but your product backlog item or something. So that's all you do from the project settings, your branch settings, policies, etc. So how it helps here? When your build completes, you are getting the email notifications, right? You can get the details about your work items. Okay, what are all the features are part of this build? So generally, you will make it manually, right? Okay, you will create a big documentation saying that, okay, this is my build, this is my repository, and these are all the product backlog items that I implemented in this sprint, etc. So you don't need to do all that stuff, because all of them are automated. Another additional thing is link items to your branches. I mean, your code. You already enforced uh, from the policy saying that for every check-in or for every pull request, your work items to be created. Otherwise, you are not even approving that request in the pull request creation. Okay. So you don't need to worry about much about it. So it's about triggers, and then retention is nothing but, you can change the retention policy. Let us say over a period of time you will create hundreds or thousands of bills. Obviously it is keeping its history somewhere else, right? And that's I'm sorry, it's a storage. You don't need to let us say you don't need to have a build history more than 6 months old. Why do you need it? Obviously you will not roll back to more than 6 months old. So you can keep that retention policy. Okay, if you say, okay, I want bills up to last 3 months, then it will keep the history of only last 3 months, like that. You can make that kind of changes. It's about your maintaining your history. This is nothing. I mean, this is what you do, and that comes here. So if you want to go and make some settings, so it is saying go to the project settings and configure. We always go here, right? Project settings, and you can go and uh, these are the test retentions. In the same way, we'll have the retention policies. You can go and configure them here. Days to keep, pull request, etc. So you can configure them. Okay. Okay. So what's next? So now we know the code qualities, and we know how to run it locally. We know the branching policies. We know the pull requests. Okay. And we know how to give the permissions for the different users or groups. Okay. And we know the CI, how to enable our batch builds, I mean, at scheduled intervals. And then till now we talked about only the code, but The other part is database, right? Every application will have the database. So guys, most of the times, even in the current days as well, database deployments are manual because we still have that old way of working like a DBS. Every database will have a database administrator, and they will not go away that easily because they've been handling the databases since years and years, and that's the heart of your application, right? If something goes wrong, then the business will go bad. That's the reason people are not taking very quick steps towards database DevOps. But what's happening? Few bigger clients said they are using this database DevOps for their low-lying project. That means not critical projects. So they're experimenting it. They apply these database DevOps concepts to the projects which are not. It's okay. They feel okay. It's okay if the project is application is down for a couple of hours, or it's okay if it is corrected. I can take it from the backup and such kind of applications they are applying this database DevOps. Of course, companies like Amazon, Microsoft, they do it automatically because they are the best in the. They are the people who create it, right? But like consulting companies, other product companies, database DevOps is still amateur. Okay, so we will be doing the database DevOps as part of our CI/CD pipeline as well. So I will show it tomorrow. So to the same CI pipeline, we will add the database stuff as well. Okay? And we will stop, and then we can close the CI stuff, and then we can move on to the CD because we haven't deployed this code to anywhere. We're still in the process of creating the artifacts and the analysis. Okay. So we will look into those aspects tomorrow. So it's a combination database, your code, and then build, compile, code quality, deployment. So there are a number of ways we talk about how the database DevOps works, what's a manual way. We will see all those some theoretical concepts and then get into the technical areas. So that's all from my end for today. Any questions?
Is there a process?
Yeah, you can see. So if you go to the Visual Studio, right, you have the Team Explorer, right? So we already have, what do you say? You already integrated, is it a home, right? Yeah. You already integrated your project with the Azure repos, right? It's already integrated. So you can get the work items category. It should be coming here. Just give me a second. Why it is not coming? I should be getting one more item here, work items. I can create a query there. Okay, bugs assigned to me. The way we see on the portal, right? In the same way, I can see the bugs assigned to me or bugs assigned to the team or all that stuff I can see. I should be getting it here. Where is that? Back. Go back. So I'm missing a couple of options here. Open. Okay, that's okay. But we will see it here. Probably I'm not. I'm running from a normal user or something. So you will get two more options here. One is work items and then build definition. You can even queue the build from your Visual Studio as well, not only from the portal. So as I told you, whatever the options you see on the portal, more than 90% will be available from your Visual Studio as well because it is tightly integrated with your server.
I have seen some bugs are integrated also. So they also.
No, not Sonar Cloud bugs. Okay, I'm talking about the bugs, what you create in your Azure boards. You have the work items, those things. Sonar Cloud, those are not the those are the violations. Okay, that's not a bug. So there is a difference. Bug, right? Bug means a bug created by a tester against a particular functionality. This bug is not from the functionality; it's from the coding best practices. So until unless you make it as a bug and enter into your Azure host, it will not be available in your work items. Both are different. That bug is different and this bug is different. Functional bug and then best practices bug, I would say. So I was thinking the bug what testers create. That you cannot see it here because that's why you are having that Sonar Cube dashboard where you see each and everything. Okay, guys. If there are no questions, I will close for today and then we'll catch up tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.